Uh-oh. Hello, and welcome to another Friday's Coaches Collab, wherever you're at. If it's morning, afternoon, we are happy to have you here. I am certified holistic pet health coach, Melissa Natanson, and I am joined by my colleague, Sonia Rothe, who is also a certified professional canine nutritionist. And speaking of real talk, I know we always say we have real talk on this show. It is going to get real today. Sonia, happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how is it going in your neck of the woods?
I'm in upstate New York, Ulster County, and it's a little thunderstormy today. So if I suddenly get cut off, that's what's happening.
That's okay. I told Sonia beforehand that I would just try to carry the torch without her. I'm only saying that because it's Olympic time. I had to make some kind of reference. Oh my God. So, but we want to jump in with Sonia. Sonia has a tremendous story. We spent some time talking a few days ago, and, I think I mention every time when we do the Coaches Collab that I am consistently amazed and impressed by the brilliant minds that we have in this group, and the holistic pet health coaches that are out there every day with their big old hearts and souls on a mission to bring holistic pet health care to the full front. And Sonia is definitely one of those. She has founded Cleo's Legacy. That is in honor of her dog Cleo. And also there was another one in there, Willow, also known as Willie. And it is their story that has started her on this journey to holistic pet wellness. And I don't want to say anymore because it really is best heard straight from Sonia's mouth. So Sonia, if you would be so dear as to share some of Cleo and Willie's story with us, we would like to hear it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I think I can do this. Very often I can't get through talking about Cleo without busting up at least a little bit, so be prepared. Cleo was, I always use this phrase first, she was my beautiful and perfect red standard poodle. And right before her 13th birthday, Cleo got cancer. And the way that we even found that was she had an annoying little cough for a few years, for a really long time. And we had been doing periodic chest x-rays and looking at all kinds of things and couldn't really find the reason for the cough. It wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't hugely impactful for her. It was just this annoying little cough that we couldn't figure out. And then finally, one day, just before her 13th birthday, we had a chest x-ray as just part of that routine evaluation that we did. And there was a small mass.
Oh, geez.
So
every pet parent's worst fear.
Yeah. My heart, I think, just dropped right out of my body when they said that. So we needed a specialist, and I called all of the specialists, in a 2-hour radius. And of course, there's always a wait. And we got in with whomever could see us first. And we got in, actually, when I called every place, the receptionist always said to me, well, are you calling for an oncology appointment or a surgery appointment? And I would say, I don't know. I thought you would tell me that.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit bumpy. And so we got scheduled with a surgeon at a Cornell affiliate in Stamford, Connecticut.
That's just mind-blowing. Wow.
Yeah. And so we went down, and, the surgeon said, okay, I can do this. It was her right caudal lung lobe. Dogs have 7 lung lobes. It was her right caudal lung lobe. And he said, we can remove that. And, when there is a lung tumor, and there was only one, you just take out the whole lobe, and then there's no issues with, clean margins. Of course, clean margins, the whole, the lobe is gone. So that was all scheduled for June. This is for June 2021. And the weekend before we had that surgery, Cleo had what we thought at the time, and of course it was a Friday night, a seizure.
Mm.
And off we went to the emergency hospital. This never happened to her before. And of course, the worry was, okay, if there's a brain tumor, then there is no reason to do the lung surgery.
Right, of course.
But
And you're thinking, if has this already gone there? Has it already metastasized?
that's right. That's exactly what we were fearful of. So, after, in hindsight, thinking about it, on the way to the emergency hospital, which was about 20 minutes, the whole seizure continued, and that was just too long. I'd had a dog with seizures before, and they were only a few minutes. Like, the actual seizure was only for a few minutes, and her head was twisting, her eyes were vibrating, the nystagmus in their eyes for the entire ride there. So jumping ahead a little bit, then we started to think maybe it was a vestibular event,
Right,
rather than a seizure. And that made sense to me afterwards, because she couldn't stand up. She had the lean, her eyes were vibrating. So, and that's all part of vestibular attack too.
yeah.
Again, she'd never had this. So off we go then to the neurologist, another specialist. And he was so wonderful, Dr. Todd Bishop at Upstate Veterinary Specialties in New York. He didn't like my description of the cough, and the fact that Cleo in the last month or so had become head shy. Like, whenever I went to touch her head, she'd duck away. She'd never done that before.
Yeah.
He suggested doing an MRI of the head and the neck.
Okay.
Thank God he did.
Yes.
There was no brain tumor, but she did have a neck tumor.
Oh God.
And
blow number 2.
yeah. And so then, the job was to talk to the surgeon, find out if he could remove the neck tumor, because the neurologist thought that he probably could. And then it turned out that they knew each other even. So there was a close collaboration with them, which was
wow.
And the surgeon could remove both in the same surgery. So we rescheduled our surgery for July 7th, and we went and she had both removed. And Cleo was a tough cookie, man. She came through the surgery like a champ, like really, really beautifully. Turns out there were 2 different kinds of cancer.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, they're unrelated tumors. The lung tumor was an adenocarcinoma, and they said if it had only been that, there would have been no need for further treatment. It's not a horrible kind of, it's cancer.
Right.
Not a horrible kind of cancer, and taking out the whole lobe, we would have been good. But the neck tumor was a poorly differentiated pleomorphic sarcoma. And it was a really nasty one.
And I know we were talking how peculiar that is, specifically because most of the time in humans, at least from my knowledge base, and I do have some significant knowledge base in human cancer, not in canine cancer, usually when they metastasize, it's the same type. And here we had a totally different one, and one that's growing at different rates. I can't imagine what you're feeling and thinking at this time as a doggy mama.
Yeah. Well, certainly wishing that it had only been the lung, the adenocarcinoma. So off to the oncologist we go, and we saw 2 different oncologists who were in agreement on the course of treatment. They suggested doxorubicin chemotherapy. One of the oncologists commented that the sarcoma had the highest mitotic rate she had ever seen. That's the cell division rate. So very, very rapidly growing.
Oh gosh.
And of course, in the neck, there's so many other structures in the neck that they did not get clean margins, and they knew that.
Oh no.
So
Oh no.
off to chemo. Cleo had her first chemotherapy on August 5th, 2021. And we had 6. And again, she was just such a champ. She was a tough girl. And she got sick each time. And since she was a poodle, her hair fell out.
Oh, that's right, because they have human hair.
Hair,
Human-like
yes.
hair, like not fur, hair.
Yep. A lot of her hair fell out.
Oh, you know
Interestingly,
what? I've never even thought of that before. I guess I didn't realize that.
yeah, the poor
Oh,
girl.
goodness.
Interestingly, though, side note is when it came back in, she had her puppy hair again. In color and texture, it was back to her puppy hair.
So was it curlier and frizzier?
It was softer and silkier and much more deep red, like when she was a puppy.
Oh.
Yep. So we had 6 chemotherapy treatments, doxorubicin chemotherapy, which they said had they oncologists, I have to say, really downplayed to me the risks of the doxorubicin. She said that there was only a 5% chance that it would negatively impact the heart. And, when you hear something like that, you feel very optimistic, only a 5% chance. But when it comes around that your dog is one of the 5%, well, then that turns it into 100%, doesn't it?
It does. Oh, Sonia.
So anyway, they warned me about potential heart issues, downplayed it very much. All along the way, by the way, all of the specialists asked me, what does she eat? But none of them advised me on what she should be eating or how her diet should be changed or what supplements could benefit her. No talk of nutrition. Just, it was kind of like asking what does she eat was just a box to check off.
Right. And if she is eating, it's like, is she eating? Never mind. I mean, she could have been eating chips.
Yeah.
And
I knew enough. I was not holistic at all. This is before I knew anything, certainly before I know what I know now. And I knew enough that she was not a kibble eater. She wasn't kibble fed, but she had canned food. And, I read the labels. I thought I was doing the right thing. And I picked a canned food that didn't have any, what I thought was garbage in it. In fact, it only had 2 ingredients. Let's say it was a can of chicken. It had the protein, chicken, and then it would say water sufficient for processing. So it was
I
just
used to feed that same food. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So it was, I thought that was good because there was no garbage in there. But, now knowing all she ate was protein, no organ, no bone content, none of the other things that I know now that she needs.
Yeah.
That she needed.
Yeah.
So anyway, we go through our chemo. Our last chemo is November 18th. And then in December, we have our first appointment with a cardiologist just to check. We did not get a baseline cardiology appointment in the beginning of chemotherapy because there was no time. We were in a hurry with this sarcoma, neck sarcoma.
Of course.
So we go in December, and all of a sudden in December, never was there any indication of a heart issue before. She has an arrhythmia and a classified mild mitral valve disease. And now here we go, we have heart meds.
Oh boy.
So that's December. We go back for our checkup at the oncologist in January, and Cleo is declared NED, which means no evidence of disease, which we thought was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have no evidence of disease, but now from the very first dose of chemotherapy, she started regurgitating water, never food, just water. It was very curious to all of the vets that I presented that to. And because she was regurgitating water, she was giving herself aspiration pneumonia.
Oh gosh, Sonia.
So now we go on to a month of Clavamox antibiotics.
Ay, ay.
And of course, Cleo had always kept herself very, very lean. She was not an overeater. But now between the six treatments of chemo and a long time on antibiotics now, she just started to melt away. She wasn't eating. She turned her nose up at everything. I've started to cook for her by now. But again, this was before I knew anything. So I was cooking her all the wrong things. Not eating, melting away. So we go through the
foundations. Oh, I'm sorry. So many foundations for her, foundations of health, meaning digestion, gut microbiome, things like that.
Yeah, totally.
There's no room for her to have a chance to heal.
That's right. That's exactly right. Totally destroyed everything. So, yeah, I always say, I mean, a little jumping ahead a little, that yes, Cleo got cancer, but the cancer is not what killed Cleo. What the chemotherapy did to her body is what killed my Cleo.
Yep.
So we go through the spring, basically this whole spring, on antibiotics and trying to stop the regurgitation. We saw an internal medicine specialist. We did an endoscopy. I mean, the poor girl was at every specialist just about in a 2-hour radius for everything. I spared no expense. I did everything.
You did everything
they told me to do.
Yeah. You did everything you knew that you could do, Sonia, from one specialist to the next. And I know that this is tough to get through. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing your story, because it really touched me. And I know it's really touching others. And we appreciate you so much and being here today, because we need you. The pet world needs you.
So that, all the while we're going through the spring, she keeps getting no evidence of disease checkups with the oncologist, so that's great. So it's like this very odd juxtaposition of these very happy results from the oncologist. The cancer's not back, the cancer's not back, the cancer's not back, but we can't figure out this thing and this thing and this thing. And by the way, she won't eat and she's melting away. She's becoming skin and bones. So anyway, we go all the way to May. And in May, we go just for our normal, regular, annual vet checkup. And that's still, by the way, that annoying little cough is still there.
Still there. Gosh darn it.
They thought, the surgeon thought that it would stop after the lung lobe was removed. The neurologist thought that it was from the neck tumor. Mm-hmm. That little cough is still there through all of this. So in May, we go for our annual. We do another chest x-ray. And the vet who had seen Cleo her entire life, the vet, my regular general vet, is now basically my friend at this point. We've been together for, 14
You're spending a lot of time together, unfortunately.
Yeah. And so she was crushed to have to tell me that she saw another small spot in a different lung lobe.
Oh, gosh.
Well, that was horrible, but it was very, very small.
Yeah.
Like barely visible. She could have missed it even. The next week, we go up to the cardiologist for our regular check, and her mild mitral valve disease in December is now categorized as severe plus. And he actually said the words to me, "Heart failure is imminent."
Oh my gosh.
So, and nobody, the cardiologist wouldn't confirm, and the oncologist denied that the doxorubicin chemotherapy, caused this rapid heart decline. I think that it did, but of course they wouldn't say so.
It seems pretty darn rapid. I've got a couple of little cardiac clients, and I've not seen that progress that quickly.
Yeah. And she's, and Cleo was in great shape in which sounds funny after I've given you that whole list of things, but in every other way, she had no joint issues. She had, at her age, this is now almost 14 and weak, no issues getting on and off the floor. No joint issues, no joint discomfort. I have video of her at the end of March on our trail that we went to in the woods, way out in front of me, stopping and waiting for me. 13 and a half, cancer survivor, skinny little girl, stopping and waiting for me. I mean,
she
was
just
incredible.
she sounds like such an amazing being.
Yes.
She probably had a heart bigger than her whole body. She just kept going.
She was practically human. Cleo was not even really a dog.
She's as Melissa Sherman likes to call it. Melissa Sherman is a colleague of ours. She's the animal communicator, a very evolved being.
For sure.
She's very evolved.
Absolutely was. So, so this is the end of May now. And then it was just a very rapid decline then. And she started to get the ascites, which is the fluid buildup. They expected the fluid buildup to be in her lungs, but as with everything, Cleo never read the rule book. And that is actually a quote from a couple of the vets, because she always had very curious symptoms, the way that things developed in her. But she started to get the fluid buildup in her abdomen instead, which is the opposite of what should have been happening with the type of mitral valve disease that she had.
Yeah.
And her eyes started to change.
Oh.
And you could see on her face that she was getting tired. And, that just progressed. I'm a teacher, and I took the last month of school off to spend it with her because I knew it was the end.
Good for you. I'm glad you were able to do that, though.
Yeah. So I had June off, and we made it through July, and she was still pretty good through most of it. We were still going every day. I was starting to have to carry her for some of the more difficult parts of our walk, but we were going every day. It was her favorite thing to do. She loved to play in the creek. She loved the water. And so I would carry her. And we go, and then finally, on 2 years ago today, on August 2nd, Cleo left me.
I'm so sorry, Sonia. And I just want to point out again, take a minute. This isn't easy.
It's okay. It's better to keep going. It's
okay. Keep going.
So it was, it's quite
anniversary. This is an important day for Sonia.
It's quite ironic that, when we were scheduling this, I didn't choose this day. This was the day you suggested to me. And I have had a couple of things happen in the last few months that have been significant dates, that have been meaningful for Cleo, that have been coming up. This being one of them. And my Cleo's legacy, I'll spare you the long story associated with that, but there were a lot of delays along the way just because I was dragging my feet, having Cleo's legacy become an official legal LLC. And when I got all the paperwork back, I didn't even really look at it, that, the confirming paperwork. And then in New York State, there's this silly requirement that you have to do a publication in local newspapers for 6 weeks.
Yes.
And when the newspaper sent me the form to fill out, it says, what date was your LLC formed? And I went back and looked finally at that point. It was July 8th. July 8th is Cleo's birthday.
Oh,
so
gosh.
Cleo's Legacy LLC, the company, was officially born on Cleo's 16th birthday.
That's amazing.
So, so that's my story of Cleo. And so I knew, we fought that for a little over a year. And I knew that her death was coming. what was unexpected was the death of her sister, Willie. That 1 year ago today was the day that I brought Willie to the emergency specialty hospital on the 1 year anniversary of Cleo's death. Willie got last spring, Willie got an antibiotic resistant bacterial pneumonia. And Willie's lungs were her one weakness, because when she was 4 years old, we remodeled our bathroom, and the dust gave her eosinophilic bronchopneumonia. And it didn't bother any of the rest of us in the house, but it got her. So Willie
ended up being a chronic issue for her.
Yes. So Willie was on an inhaler twice a day for her whole life after that, from 4 years old for the rest of her life. And so this particular bacteria is one that is known to go after people with cystic fibrosis. So it is a very respiratory, opportunistic bacteria and antibiotic resistant. It's a tough one. You know, who knows where in the world she ever got it from. But that was last spring. So, you know, but she was doing pretty okay. We were still going on our hikes every day and everything last summer, and everything was going along. There was nothing, there was nothing acute happening. It was just like this little bit of a chronic thing.
Yeah.
And then on the 1 year anniversary of her sister's death, that morning she was having some trouble breathing. And so we took her to the emergency specialty hospital, where she had been about 3 weeks before. They did a transtracheal wash to take some of the bacteria out to test it.
Mm-hmm.
And they determined at that time, they felt that 6 of her lung lobes had cleared, and that there was one lung lobe that was described to me as a sac of infection. So when she was having trouble breathing, we brought her back there, and this happened to be a different specialty hospital than Cleo went to. And I thought at the time that that was a good thing, so that I wouldn't get, triggered going.
Yes.
So she had 104 fever and was having a little bit of trouble breathing. It was not, a horrible situation, but given the fact that we knew she had this bacteria, we brought her in.
Yes.
So they kept her for the day, and they talked to the surgeon down there, and both the surgeon and the internal medicine specialist were in agreement that they thought that lung lobe needed to come out, because we had already been dealing with it for a few months.
And this sounds like a major, major surgery.
What are the odds of having 2 dogs that need lung lobes removed, right?
I was just thinking that. I thought, my God, here we go again.
Yeah. So, I didn't have a good feeling about it. I knew that Cleo was really, really tough, and not to minimize Willie at all, because she was amazing. But I knew Willie was not quite as tough as Cleo. And I knew that she also had a very inflammatory immune system. When her immune system set the inflammatory process in motion, it was always very hard to get it calmed back down again. Yeah. So we did a, full body MRI on her first, to make sure that there wasn't a cancer or something else somewhere that would make it so that we shouldn't remove this lung lobe. And she was completely clear at 12 years old. There was no cancer. There was nothing else concerning on the MRI in her whole little body. So we said to go ahead and do it, and Willie died 6 days later.
Oh, Sonia.
She came home for about 3 hours, and we knew we had to bring her right back.
She wasn't
breathing. She sounded like she was drowning. The other lung lobes that had been clear were filling with fluid. And I think that was her body's inflammatory response to the surgery.
Yeah.
So we lost Willie on August 8th last year, 2023. And just as I was finishing my holistic pet health coach certification. So of course, I didn't know even what I know now to have helped her, at the end of her life also. And I called and let them know that even though Willie didn't survive, I still wanted to know the lab results on the lung lobe. And they needed to call me back the next day, and lab results were no bacteria in that lung lobe.
Sonia.
So I don't know why Willie had a fever and was having some trouble breathing on that day we brought her in, but there was no bacteria in that lung lobe. And that surgery is what killed her.
I'm so sorry. How does one doggy mama heart handle all that? But I want to tell you something. I have listened to your story, and I see in you a strength and resilience that you're bringing to your work every single day. And there's no doubt in my mind that you are Cleo's legacy and Willie's. And somehow, some way, we're never going to know why this journey happened to you or to them. But it seems like it's the most profound things in our life. The ones that we feel like are going to crush us are the ones that make us get up and stand tall and move forward and try to make a change. And that's exactly what you did, Sonia.
Well, they say that our dogs are sent to us for a reason and that they are our guides. And I absolutely believe that Cleo and Willie were meant to lead me here. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I do it in Cleo's name. And the reason why it's Cleo's legacy and not named after both of them is just because when Cleo died, I knew that I had to do something. And I didn't know what that was going to be. I had no idea. I thought maybe a nonprofit, maybe to a nonprofit to help people who financially can't, who get a terrible diagnosis with their pet and they can't afford any treatment, like to help people pay. I thought that would be a good one, because there was a really wonderful organization that helped me called Live Like Rue. They were wonderful. That's Rue. Live Like Rue, ROO. Yeah.
I'll try to get that in the comments.
Yeah, please donate to Live Like Rue. And they are an emotional and financial support for people with cancer diagnosis specifically. So I thought maybe I would do something like that. I had no idea, but I knew that it was going to be called Cleo's Legacy, whatever it was, because of course I still had Willie, and I thought I would continue to have Willie for years. And that's how it became Cleo's Legacy. And then losing Willie was unexpected. And the way that I have been able to honor Willie is I've actually had an illustrator create a scene for me to use for my logo, which is not yet up because they just finished the illustration and it's now off to the graphic designer. But it has both Cleo and Willie in the scene. It's an outdoor scene. Cleo in the foreground, Willie in the back. And then in the grass in the front are a couple of daisies, because my red standard poodle puppy is Daisy.
It's Daisy. I love that. I can't wait to see. Is Daisy with you? Is she there?
She's not here. She's out of view of the camera, but she's 5.5 months old. Red standard poodle puppy from the same place that Cleo and Willie are from. So there is a genetic link. She really is their sister.
I was going to ask if they were related.
Yeah, that was important to me. She had to be related. So, I thought Willie would be here being the big sister. And unfortunately, Daisy's here alone, but that's that's the way it goes. So yeah, that is the story of my journey that led me here.
So
And
oh, I'm sorry. I just had a little bump there for a minute. So when did you were talking about that you were getting to the end of the holistic pet health coaching certification when you lost your Willie. Mm-hmm. So when was that spark? When did you see how did you come across the holistic pet health coaching? What made you join?
Okay. So, when Cleo was sick, I did everything, like I said, that the conventional and specialty vets told me to do. I did not dive right in searching holistic stuff right away online, like I know a lot of people do. And, of course, now that is something that I kick myself for, but I was just, nope, doing what the doctor says all the way along. And then in January, when I we had gotten through chemotherapy, and in January, when I had only watched her get worse from the beginning of the whole thing, that's when I started to get online a little bit and found some prominent holistic vets on social media. Dr. Judy Morgan was the first person that I found and learned a lot from her.
Yeah.
And through doing that, I also discovered who Angela Ardolino was. And I can't even remember why I initially sent Angela an email that spring.
And Angela's CBD dog health, everyone that may not know.
CBD dog health and myco dog medicinal mushrooms, right? Yeah. So this was the spring then of 2023, I guess. I sent Angela an email, and much to my surprise, she responded immediately. And we had a little bit of an email exchange, and I shared my story with her in an abbreviated way. And she said, I know a great program that you sound like you would be great for. Let me put you in touch with Dr. Rothe.
Wow.
And then I exchanged a couple of emails with Dr. Roberts, and the rest was history. I started in early spring 2023 and finished by the beginning of August. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And we're not going anywhere yet. There's more to come, but I just want to take a minute for any of you that have been listening to Sonia's story. If any of this resonates with you, if you're interested in becoming a holistic pet health coach, there are links in the comments where you can sign up for a workshop and get to speak with the amazing Dr. Rothe. And find out more about it, because for so many of us, it has been life-changing and set us on a path that we never could have imagined would have come our way. But like Sonia, now I have an outlet. All of us have a story. Unfortunately, more often than not, they're heart-wrenching. And but we're on a mission to move forward, and a mission to bridge the gap between veterinary care and pet parents, because as Sonia was talking, there's a lot in between, and we don't know what we don't know until we know different. And
that's exactly I love that phrase. You don't know what you don't know. And that's just what it is. I didn't know how differently I should have been feeding Cleo and Willie. The one thing I will say is, after what I went through with Cleo, Willie at the end of her life got the right kind of food. she was raw fed the right kind of food. She was getting CBD dog health, CBD. She was getting myco dog medicinal mushrooms. She was getting bovine colostrum for her immune system. I really benefited from what I learned because of Cleo for the end of her life.
Yeah. And now that you've got Daisy, things are totally different.
Absolutely. Daisy is, so Daisy, Daisy is from a breeder, a standard poodle breeder. She was eating kibble when I got her at 8 weeks. She had one vaccination 2 days before I picked her up at 7.5 weeks. And when she came home, I never even bought a bag of puppy kibble. We went cold turkey, right to real food, right to raw feeding. And I knew that I was not going to just blindly continue with the puppy series of vaccinations. So I waited until she was 14 weeks and did a titer for parvo and distemper. And she is totally protected. She doesn't need any more vaccination. So that's one thing I will say for Cleo and Willie. I knew not to over vaccinate her.
Mm-hmm.
They both had their full series of puppy vaccinations, but then we did titers the whole rest of their lives, and they never needed another vaccination for, living to be 14 and 12 years old. So that part I did right and continue to do right for Daisy.
Two things on that topic. Well, I have a question for you I want to ask in a minute, but one of the things that is fantastic about this program and having the team of us and staying in with what's going on and the latest research is that we are learning the risks of over vaccination. And it's not necessarily don't vaccinate. We have to be our pet's own advocates, and we have to do the research and make sure that we know what the options are, such as titer testing.
That's right. That's right. We're not anti-vaxxers, which I have seen people accuse anybody who has a holistic bend as being an anti-vaxxer. Not anti-vaxxers, just smart vaccination, right. Not over vaccination.
Right. This is another reason why we're on this mission, Sonia. It continues to just baffle me that now the cancer rate in dogs is now 1 in 2 over the age of 10, and it's 1 in 4 under the age of 10. I think I've got that right. Yeah. What's your gut on this? What's your feeling? What's behind this staggering increase in cancer?
Well, our dogs are the only animal that gets cancer at a higher rate than we do, than humans do. And it's because they are with us all the time. They are in our environment. So all of the same things that we're exposed to for the high human cancer rates, they are even more so because they are on the ground.
And they've got little bodies. It's concentrated in them.
That's right. And everything is absorbing up through their paws, whereas, we most of the time are wearing shoes. And then, that's what we've done to our environment, just generally speaking, as a society, what our world has become. But then add to that the amazingly, just mind-blowingly poor quality of food, mass-produced food, and over-vaccination.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Sonia is backing up right now what we all say, which is whole fresh food is the best, whether it's cooked, gently cooked, raw, the fresh food. Right. Because at the end of the day, the dog's cellular integrity and cellular health has to have the right nutrients and the right amino acid profile and the right antioxidants for when those cells replicate, or else this is when we get into problems. And I don't think, once again, going back to we don't know what we don't know until we know different. I don't think so many pet parents realized, myself included, that kibble's just dead food. I'm going to bring up my word again. I call it burnt brown balls.
Yeah, 100%. They start with ingredients that have very little, if any, nutritional value to begin with. And then the extremely high heat and pressure, if there even was anything that was alive in there when they started, it's definitely not by the end.
Nope. And it's oxidized and it's over carbohydrated, dogs really don't have a high carbohydrate need. And we give them fruit and vegetables to substitute some antioxidants in there. But when we've got kibble that's filled with corn and fillers and soy or whatever, at the end of the day, dogs and kitties, their bodies just don't know what to do with it.
No.
And,
no. And the general public has been, brainwashed for years and years and years into thinking dog food is a thing. There's no such thing as dog food. There's just food. And kibble isn't food.
Yeah. I always kind of chuckle. Oh, go ahead.
One thing that, I with my clients, we talk about feeding real food. It doesn't have, like you said, it does not have to be raw. It can be cooked. It can be raw. It can be whatever they want it to be. We meet them wherever they are comfortable. Absolutely. I've had clients that started with me who were like, no, I don't want to do raw. And they get cooking for a while. And then they get back in touch and say, I think I might want to try raw. And, it evolves and they develop, which is great. That's how it should go. You evolve and you develop as you learn more, you change your mind and, you learn more.
You know what? That's interesting. Let's, why we're here, Sonia, let's dive into this a little bit. What Beth just posted. It's hard. How do we work together with vets? This is my feeling. We have got to be there. We've got to work with them because we need vets for so many things, the surgeries, the diagnostic, the things like that. But also, we know after going through this program and you being a certified professional canine nutritionist, that the education behind nutrition and the foundations of nutrition when it comes to dogs and cats is just not there. And their background in nutrition is mostly based on those that shall not be named top 3 that are prescription diets. And that's what the vets are there to use. So we're in a tough spot when we've got a vet said type situation. How would you handle that? How do you handle that with clients?
That's a tough one. Because you have to have a vet who is going to be open-minded. I like to remind clients that you don't have to go to this specific vet. It's okay to vet shop, if you will. And if you want to have a little bit of a holistic bend and raise your dog with a little bit of a holistic bend, and you are seeing a vet who is absolutely not supportive of that, and in fact pushing back or pressuring you to feed kibble or pressuring you to vaccinate, then you don't go back there, right? There's probably other vets in your area. Make an appointment at another office and go have a conversation with them. And it might even take 2 or 3 or 4 different vets in your area before you find someone that is, if not a holistic vet, is at least open-minded enough to not make you feel pressured and pushed into doing things that you don't want to do for your dog.
Right.
For example, my vet is not a holistic vet. I love her. Like I said, we have this long-standing relationship now. I love her. She's not holistic. Sometimes when I tell her what I want to do, she'll look at me and chuckle a little bit. And she says, I'm a scientist. That's always her.
I know the feeling.
But she's very open-minded. So she's wonderful. For instance, she asked me what I was going to do for heartworm for Daisy. And I said, I'm going to do the Safe Heart protocol. And I sent her Dr. Katie Woodley's heartworm video, which you've probably seen, that describes the Safe Heart protocol and what that is.
Great video.
And I sent her the video. I sent her what I wanted to do. And because I needed her to write the prescription for the very, very low dose interceptor.
Mm-hmm.
And she was all in. She was all on board. She said, okay. She said,
yes.
I know. She said, I know you're going to keep track. I know you're going to remember at 45 days. And okay, I'm on board. So, you don't have to have a holistic vet. You just need a vet who is going to be open-minded to support what you decide, what you want to do with them.
Fantastic. That's fantastic information. And you just need a holistic guide, like one of us.
That's right.
We can, that's part of what we're here for, is to help guide you and give you options. Because I think, for you, what you went through with Cleo and Willie, and I know in my experience with Darla, I've talked about Darla several times before. We have had a heck of a road with that little darling, and she is the reason that I am here. But I got the answer of she's going to be on prescription meds and steroids and for the rest of her life, and it's not going to be a very long one. And I just couldn't accept that.
Yeah.
And when I started, so there was nothing I could feed her. I had to figure it out. So I thought, well, here we go.
Yeah.
Gonna dig in.
Yeah.
Just started feeding it her at home, and I'm grateful that I have a 14-year-old now.
Yeah, and I want to congratulations on that, by the way. I want to be the person that I wish I had found when I was going through what I went through. And I remember, you can't just Google something anymore because there's so much that comes up and there's no way to really tell what sourcing is credible or not.
Yeah.
And, so when I first started, I didn't know what to believe or not to believe with what the answers that I was getting or the suggestions that I was getting just by Googling as much as I could. So I want to be the person that I wish I had found to guide me through that really horrible time, because when you get that horrible diagnosis, it doesn't matter who you live with or what your situation is or anything else, you feel alone.
And you feel hopeless.
You feel alone and hopeless. And I remember that very well. And that is the whole point of this for me, is that I want to help people so that they don't have to feel that way quite so much. And the other thing that I really thought a lot about when I was figuring out what Cleo's legacy was going to be was I was so fortunate that I had the means that I could do whatever the vets told me to do. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to get a horrible diagnosis and because of money, not be able to do anything and just watch your animal die. Oh. And one day I will get together that I want to do something about that too. I have a little bit of a plan of where that might go. So, right now, Cleo's legacy is holistic pet health coaching and canine nutrition. But hopefully someday it's going to be more, to be able to help people in that kind of situation as well. One step at a time, and I am still a teacher for a little while longer. So one thing at a time. One thing I want to bring up before we are at a time, though, speaking about food and diets, is I think that more and more people are starting to jump on board with things like Farmer's Dog and Ollie's and Just Food for Dogs and companies like that. And that's great in the sense that it is pointing out to people that dogs should be eating real food, right? You're seeing commercials on TV for those companies all the time. During the Olympics right now, Farmer's Dog commercials are coming on all the time. And I love that bit of advertising they're doing to get people to know that real food is what should be happening. However, a lot of those folks are still putting a whole lot of rice and pasta and potato and lentil and pea in that food. And while real food is great, for optimal health and nutrition, it shouldn't just be anything. dogs have no biological need for those types of carbs, right? For the rices and pastas and grains.
Straight from the canine nutritionist, everyone.
So if you are feeding some of those kinds of brands, look at those ingredients. And if you've got pasta or rice or potato in multiple places or very high up on the ingredients list, good for you that you're doing real food, but there is still a better way even than that.
Right. I like to say it's old science, the whole like rice is okay, the chicken and rice thing, especially with the tummy ache. Oh, my dog's got a tummy ache. We're doing chicken and rice. No, stop.
Yeah, stop the rice.
Stop the rice. It's not helping. And, so frequently I have so many people say, oh, we're just doing low fat and, a little bit of chicken and a little bit of rice for pancreatitis. Also, no. So also old science, because pancreatitis, when we've got a high carb load, that sparks the pancreas to pump out a whole bunch of insulin. And that's what's behind the pancreatitis. When high fat and high carbs mix together, it's not the high fat necessarily.
Well, and not only that, generally speaking, chicken is a very inflammatory food. There's a much higher omega-6-3 ratio in chicken than in many other proteins. Yep. So chicken is, in my opinion, chicken is best to be avoided, generally speaking. And it's in everything. Pick up any garbagey dog treat on a shelf, and there's going to be chicken in there.
And sometimes we don't know what part of the chicken is in there.
Correct. Chicken meal.
Feathers, meal, feet, which can be great if they're raw on their own and fresh, but ground up with a bunch of feathers, and we just don't know. Well, that you've been a wealth of knowledge. This has just been great, but we do have one more thing left. I always say it's my favorite part. I still don't have a little jingle for it yet, but we're going to get there. It's time for pet perks and pet peeves. Thanks for chuckling at me, Sonia. I know I get a kick out of myself, but I don't know if anybody else does. So at least you laugh. All right. Okay. So pet perks. What are your top 3 things that you, as a canine nutritionist, doggy mama, holistic pet health coach, love, can't do without?
Just generally speaking, the things that I can't do without. Daisy, who is moving around.
Oh, Daisy! We need Daisy. Can she get up here?
She's not going to get in the shot, though, I don't think. Daisy.
Okay.
Come here, baby.
Oh, we want to see your.
I'm getting the belly. She's saying, "You come to me and rub."
Oh yeah.
So Daisy, exercise. That's not really related to necessarily the pet world. I am a K through 12 certified health and physical education teacher. So exercise is an important thing for me. That's something I can't do without. And I'm very thankful for and can't do without the high quality raw dog food that I can order, so that I don't have to grind my own bones and handle my own organs.
Amen to that.
Very grateful that there are high quality companies out there that will send it to me frozen.
Yes, agreed. Because if I had to grind that at home, my kitchen would be a lot messier. And it's already, when I feed, it's like I take it to the whole thing. There's like platters that I pull out every time. It's a process.
Yeah, I don't mind doing the vegetables. And in fact, on my my business Facebook page, Cleo's Legacy, by the way, everyone, I have a few videos up of how I prepared Daisy's vegetable content.
That's awesome. And there is a link to Cleo's Legacy, the Facebook page, in the comments. If you'd like to check out Sonia's page, there is a link to that in the comments. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, so pet peeves. This is... we can wave a magic wand, be done with it, wipe it off the face of the planet. What would they be?
Absolutely. Kibble dog food. And the companies that have been dishonest and lying to people for all of these years. People who don't pick up their dog poop on the trail. Let's get rid of those folks. And a huge pet peeve for me is supplements that have nice active ingredients. They make you think it's a quality supplement, but then they have all kinds of junk listed in the inactive ingredients.
Yes.
Flavorings, emulsifiers, all kinds of inactive ingredients that your dog should not be eating. So a lot of people get tripped up on supplements in the inactive ingredients. You got to look at all of it, folks. And generally speaking, things that come in a chew are going to have inactive ingredients that you don't want.
Fillers. Are you talking like, just to anybody who may be wondering, like cellulose, magnesium stearate, the things like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, those kinds of fillers that go in there. There's a lot of joint chews I come across with folks. That's part of my intake form, is asking what supplements people currently have their dog on. There's always a lot of joint health chews that are just full of, have, one positive ingredient, green-lipped mussel, say, positive ingredient, but then a whole bunch of other junk in the inactive ingredients. So read the whole ingredients list. And, just like people practice, they've been saying for years, what you buy for yourself when you pick up an item off the grocery store shelf, if it's got a long list of ingredients and a lot of them you can't even pronounce, put that back. Same thing for your dog products, please.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice and a great reminder. We have one quick question I wanted, since we've got Sonia with us right now. How good are the tubes of food that you can buy in a fridge at the store?
Yeah, my guess is she's referring to Fresh Pet, right? I don't mind. I'll name companies, Fresh Pet. Not good. Not good. I don't know the ingredients off the top of my head, but if you check those ingredients, there's going to be a lot of things in there that you really don't want your dog to be eating.
And if you've got any questions, once again, Sonia's email is in the comments, as well as her Facebook page. Please feel free to reach out to her if you've got any further questions, because as you can see from today, she is a wealth of information and knowledge, and it's been a true pleasure to have you here today, Sonia. So before we wrap this up, we went a whole bunch of directions today. Wow, we got this just flew by. I was captivated by you the whole time. Is there anything that you would want people to know about you, or something that you think might be a common misconception about being a holistic pet health coach that you would want people to know or help them understand?
Well, aside from the one that we've already touched on, and that we're not necessarily anti-vaxxers, the other one is we are going to meet you where you are in your journey. We're not going to shame you or push you or bully you into raw feeding or take any step with your animal that you're not ready for. We want to be a reliable source of information that can help guide you at the pace that you need to go at to learn and do the best possible thing for the health and longevity of your pet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic advice. Thank you again, everyone who was able to join and comment. And I know that there's further questions, and we can go back in those comments and help you answer and help get those questions answered a little bit further. But on this wonderful Friday, we are going to say goodbye for now. I thank you again, Sonia, and thank you everyone who supported and joined in today. And as always, positive vibes. See you next time.
Thank you.